So we're going to look at what the solution should be for these questions that you've done as starter questions. So these are exam questions. I'll show you where the marks would be awarded. You can check your own working for this. So you can clearly see it's telling you you've got this graph here, y equals ax squared, a quadratic graph. You can see that there is a 0.550 line on that graph, but we want to know what the value of the multiplier of the x squared is, so that a is what we're going to be looking for. So what you do is you use your 0.550 to help you work out that. Remember that the 5 will be your value for x, so you've got x equals 5, and your 50 is your y value, so you've got x equals 5 and y equals 50, and you're going to sub both of those values into the equation of the curve, which is y equals ax squared. So the y we are replacing with the 50, and the a is what we're trying to work out, and that is multiplying your value for x, which is 5, and that is getting squared. Now it's the 5 that is being squared, so on the next line down you've still got your 50 there. 5 squared, remember, means 5 times 5, not 2 times 5, so 5 times 5, which is going to give us 25. So now we can write 50 equals 25. A times 25 is the same as 25 times a, or we can write it that way around. So we've got a little equation to solve. We can switch sides here because we're used to seeing the letter term being on the left. So 25a is equal to 50. So to work out the value of a, you're basically going to be dividing each side of that equation by 25. That allows us to get to the answer of a is equal to 2. Now where you get your marks in a question like this, you will get 1 mark for this line here where you have substituted into the equation. So if you've got that written down, that would be correct. The rest of the marks are allocated for getting the final answer of 2 with all your working leading up to that value. So hopefully you got 2 out of 2 there. For this question here, the second question, you've got the equation of a curve and you are asked to identify the turning point of your parabola from this equation. So what we know, right, if I just write the equation down here again, and I would suggest that you should have had that written down on your page, we know that from this information we can identify the coordinates of the turning point. Remember that the x coordinate of your turning point will always be the opposite sign from what is in here. So the fact that we've got -2 here means that our turning point is going to be +2. It's the opposite in terms of the x coordinate, whereas the y coordinate, it matches exactly. So you get the point, the turning point has got coordinates 2, 5. So that's part A. Part B, what do we know? We are asked to state the equation of the axis of symmetry. So the axis of symmetry is a straight line, and that straight line always goes through the turning point, and it's always the same thing as the x coordinate of your turning point, but you need to write it as x equals. So the axis of symmetry here would have equation x equals 2. If you just write down 2, you won't get the mark. You need to have written down x equals. So actually that first point you get 2 marks for your turning point. Some people end up forgetting about the opposite sign and end up writing things like -25. That would get you 1 of the marks, but in order to get 2 marks, right, you need to have both the x coordinate correct and the y coordinate correct for your turning point. For part C in this question, you are looking to find the coordinates of the point where your parabola crosses the y-axis. to do this, what do we know? Well, we know that all points that lie on the y-axis have x equal to 0. So we are going to sub x equals 0 into the equation of the curve, which of course was y equals x minus 2 all squared plus 5. And if we sub in there, so we are replacing the x with the value of 0. So we're doing y equals 0 minus 2 all squared plus 5. 0 minus 2 is going to be negative 2, and that is getting squared. Remember that anytime you square a negative number, you're going to get a positive value. So y equals 4 plus 5. Negative 2 squared, remember, is negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4 plus the 5 would give you 9. So your y-intercept is therefore the point 0, 9. And in order to get the 2 marks here, this piece of working would represent one of the marks, and the second mark would be for actually stating your coordinates of your point. So knowing to sub in and with x, replacing x equals 0, that bit there, that's one of the marks, and the second bit to earn the full mark should be looking to state the coordinates of the point. So last question for this one, part A is about factorising. So we're looking to factorise x squared plus 3x minus 10. Remember that with factorising, you check for common factor. There's clearly not a common factor. Difference of two squares means two terms. There's not two terms here. So this is clearly the trinomial. And when you do the trinomial expression and you've just got a 1x squared there, so there's no number in front of the x squared, remember that what you're looking for here is your product and your sum. So we need the product to be the last number, and here the last number is negative 10, and your sum needs to be equal to 3. So you're trying to come up with two numbers that will multiply together to give you negative 10. I think that could be negative 1 times 10, it could be negative 10 times 1, negative 2 times positive 5, or negative 5 times positive 2. So there's 4 different possibilities, but only one of those would satisfy both conditions in the table, and it would be this one here. Right, negative 2 times 5 does in fact give us negative 10, and if we add negative 2 and positive 5, we do get 3. So that does tell us that our bracket needs to be x minus 2 and x plus 5. So that's part A. All we've been asked to do in part A was factorise. Then part B is saying hence. Now the word hence in maths always means use what you've just done to help you solve x squared plus 3x minus 10 equals 0. So we would be looking for you to replace this 3-term expression, so your trinomial expression, with your double brackets, your factorised form in other words. And once you've done that, you're then looking to split it up into two little mini equations. So you've got x minus 2 equals 0, so we're going to have x equal to 2, and this one's going to give us x plus 5 equals 0, and we get x equals negative 5. And that's it. So when it's asking you to solve by hence means use your factorised form to help you solve that, and you need to get both of those roots to earn the 1 mark that you've got here. Up in this bit here, the factorising process, you actually get 2 marks for that, and you need to have the signs correct, and you need to have both brackets correct in order to earn the 2 marks.